Welcome to a tutorial for the professional software Vinci Resolve, used for video editing and more, things like TV shows, movies, and YouTube videos like this. Hopefully by the end of this tutorial, if you're either an experienced editor of a different program or a complete beginner, you'll have a decent foundation of an understanding for how to use the program and make videos, and hopefully this can be a decent blend between quite simple and easy to understand, and also show you some features that will be very useful. You can download the latest version of Vinci Resolve at blackmagicdesign.com. And bearing in mind there are two versions, the standard version, which is called Vinci Resolve, and then Vinci Resolve Studio. And essentially, Vinci Resolve is free and has a lot of the features. It's what I use. And then Studio, it's a paid thing, £245. And for different currencies, it's somewhat equivalent. And yeah, it has more features. It's better if you want to take things more seriously, have the money and stuff, easily to spend it. And yeah. If you want to take things seriously, I recommend this version, but if you're starting out and you just want to figure things out, yeah, I highly recommend the free version, and hopefully it will do most of the stuff that you want it to. After installing and setting up Vinci Resolve, when you load it up, you should be greeted with this screen eventually, and this is the project manager. If you haven't used Vinci Resolve before, it should just be an untitled project, but when you make different projects, they'll appear here. What you can do is you can create a new folder by right-clicking and clicking new folder, and then you can just drag projects in. And that's what I've done for some previous projects, as you can see here, and probably on my YouTube channel as well. Anyway, that's for something after you've done. Just to start, click New Project in the bottom right. So New Project, title it what you want to. So I will title it YT Test. And when you press Create, it won't take too long to load, and you'll be greeted with this screen. Now, bearing in mind that your experience might differ depending on if there's a newer version and how powerful your computer is. It will be quite slow, but yeah. It should be fairly similar to this, and hopefully it'll work out. This probably seemed quite complicated. It did to me at least, but hopefully I'll be able to simplify it enough, and hopefully you'll understand it. So first of all, what I'd recommend you doing is going to the Edit tab, which is the third one at the bottom. Now, as you probably already noticed, there are 7 tabs at the bottom, and essentially what they are enhanced effects, color adjustments, enhanced audio, enhanced delivering of footage, enhanced of putting the footage in and arranging it, and then the cut page, which is essentially a different version of the edit page, which allows you to do things differently, which personally I don't really like, and yeah, I just recommend using the edit page. For this tutorial, I'll be using the edit page, which allows you to do all the different things I'm going to talk about, and yeah, there are a few more advanced things that the other pages will help with, but if you're just starting out and you don't really know what you're doing, hopefully this will work out for you. Anyway, to simplify things, what I'll do is, if you can see, below the menu bar, there's a row of things, including the title of your project, and some of them might be white, including the media pool, as you can see here. So if you click on the ones that are white, it will get rid of them, and I'll get back to it. Hopefully I'll explain it well enough for you, and yeah, that'll hopefully make sense. And also while we're here, in the viewer bit, which I'll also talk about later, you might see HQ, and if you tick on the little arrow, then go to prefer proxies. I'll talk about it later, but yeah, it'll hopefully help you out, especially if you've got a less powerful machine. Okay, so before you start a project, what you want to do is try to adjust the settings. So the timeline is what you want it to be, which if you go to the bottom right hand corner, which has the project settings, and also by the way, the project manager is here, so you can bring it back up if you want to go to a different project or something like that. Anyway, go to project settings. You probably won't be too surprised to see so many settings there, and yeah, it'll probably seem quite complicated, but hopefully I'll simplify it enough and hopefully you'll understand it. So the first thing you might want to adjust is the timeline resolution, which, if making a standard YouTube video like this, is most likely 1920 by 1080 HD. If making something like an Instagram reel, a TikTok, or a YouTube short, you might want to use the vertical resolution. And yeah, there might be various other resolutions that you want to use, and if you know, you'll probably be able to put it in. If not, it most likely will be 1920 by 1080 to have a video like the one you're watching right now. Moving on to the second setting that you'll want to change probably is the timeline frame rate. Now, if you don't know what it is, then that's fine. Don't know what frame rate is, that's okay. If you do know your frame rate, in the free version you can go up to 60 and the paid version is up to 120. And yeah, you can put that in. If you don't know, then that's fine. If all of your video uses the same frame rate, then you'll be able to do that manually with the media pool, which I'll show you later. But yeah, if you don't know, don't worry, you can leave it. The final two things are down here to optimize media and render cache. So proxy media resolution, let's just put it to half, and then proxy media format. If you don't know what it the rest of them mean, just put H.264 and you should be fine. I'll get onto what some of that stuff means later, but for now, that'll just be fine. And what you can do, if you know you're using the same project settings again, is go to the top right corner of the box, click on the three dots, and then go to Save Current Settings as Preset. Then you can name it what you want to. So in this instance, YT Test. And if you change any future settings, you can just do the same thing by going the three dots, but instead go to the YT Test or whatever you've called it, then go to Update Preset, and you can change it. Also, if you click on Set Current Settings as Default Preset and update it, then the next time you load up the program, you'll have these same settings. So if you're intending on keep on using them again, then just be there. Back at the edit page, I'll try and talk you through some of the different sections because yeah, it might seem quite complicated, but when you separate it, it might become a lot simpler for you. So in the top left is the menu bar, which unlike the project settings, allows you to essentially change a lot of the things for you to use, but the final video is mostly the same. And then below that is a lot of menus that you can use to interact with different things, as I'll get into later. Then below that is the viewer of where, when you have footage, you'll see it. And below there is the timeline of where you can edit the footage and see what the different things are, which will hopefully all make sense when I get into it a bit more. So next, you'll probably want to import some footage. So if you go to Media Pool, what you can do is right click or use Control I to import media. So you can find it on your computer. And a bit of a tip, if all the footage is the same, then it should be fine. But if you've got different bits of footage, if you know there's like a primary source, then what you can do is you can select those, or select the one if there's only one, open, and then it'll allow you to change the project frame rate, which I suggest if it prompts you to and you don't know what to do with the frame rate. So change. And then if we go back down to project settings, as you might be able to see, the format and the different frame rates have changed. And what you can do now is, if this is what you're going to use in the future, go back and then update your preset. Now to actually use the footage, what you can do is click on it and then drag it down to the timeline. And there you go. Should be able to hear it, although if you do put your computer into sleep mode, as I've done in the past, then it might not let you hear the audio. But anyway, for the purpose of this video, so you can hear my voice better, I'll just mute the track. But then yeah, play your video with the space bar, or L, and then you also press L multiple times to speed it up, K to stop it, and J to do the same, but go back, and then press it multiple times to go faster. I brought some more media into the media pool, and as you might be able to see, it's not very smooth and it's not playing too well. And what you can do to fix footage that isn't playing too well is if you go back up to it in the top right, you right click on it, which also gives you a menu to do loads of things like use a LUT, change the clip color. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. If you know, you know. If you don't worry, you'll be fine. Anyway, generate proxy media, which is the thing that I was on about earlier. That's why I wanted you to change up here in the top. Prefer proxies. Yeah, it runs a lot faster now, and yeah, it might be worth decreasing even more if it's not running well, from half to a quarter, or maybe even lower. And by the way, half is on one axis. Anyway, if you don't know, it doesn't matter, but if it runs smoothly, then that should hopefully do fine. And also, if at lower resolutions it still doesn't run well, it might just be the case that your computer just can't run the program well, which just is what it is really. Anyway, with the footage on the timeline, I'll talk a bit more about how you can trim clips and do stuff with it. So we'll start with these controls. Just above the timeline, there's quite a few controls, and the first one is what I just keep it on, but it's there at standard. So essentially, the first 7 I don't really use, I just leave them, and then I move on to the next ones, which first one is snapping. Essentially, when it's on, if you have a clip and then you move it, then it will just, when you get closer, just snap to the next clip. And when I turn it off, yeah, it just does not stop at all, which, yeah, snapping, very useful. I usually keep it on. And then link selection. Essentially, if you have any highlighted, by the way, clips, you can just click away on the timeline and it'll highlight them. Anyway, if you click on a clip, then instead of moving the audio with the video, if they're synced, it will just move one. So yeah, that can be handy sometimes, but usually I just keep it on. Then moving along, don't use those 3. The zooms, so full extent zoom, if you press that, it will show all the footage that you have on the timeline. Detail zoom, which will just zoom in, and then custom zoom, which is just custom and you can change it with the slider. And then you can just change the different ones when you want to. A few different shortcuts as well that allow you to do some things are Control A, which allows you to select all the clips. So if you're in the timeline, you can select them. If you're in the media pool, select them all, and in just a lot of windows you can use it. And also in this tutorial I am using Windows, so using Control and Alt instead of Command and Options as it would be on Mac. And also, you can download this software for Windows, Linux, and Mac. So you can use it on quite a few devices. And also the iPad, but I think it's a bit different on there. Alt-Y, which selects the clips forwards. And then if I deselect, and then I use Control-Alt-Y, which if you're on in between clips, it might select both. But anyway, if I move back one frame with the left arrow key, which you can change frames with the arrow key, select off and then do Control-Alt-Y, it'll select all the clips behind, which is quite useful if you're trying to move a few clips and put one in between. And then if you make a mistake, you can do Control-Z and that'll undo it, or Control-Shift-Z to redo it. As for editing the clips and putting them together, just click on a clip and dragging it is the main way to move them. And then also the red thing is the playhead, this thing, just so you know, it'll make sense later. Anyway, what you can do is at the end of a clip, you can drag it, which is not usually what I do, but that is an option. And then if you're in between clips, if one has gone over the other, then move it so it goes to different points. So I'll put it in the middle for that. And another thing you can do is next to Media Pool, there's Effects, which also next to Media Pool, as you might see, there's an expand arrow. Essentially, that allows you to have more on your screen and also have two at a time. But yeah, personally, I just like to have one. It does the job for me. But anyway, if you have two clips where the start and the end have been cut off a bit, it allows you to use transition. So if I use Additive Resolve. As for other ways for trimming and cutting the clips, what I do is in Vinci Resolve at the top, if you go to Keyboard Customization, I'm going to change a few things and I'll talk about them after. So the first thing is Split Clip, which I would add as F1. Then Start to Playhead, which the Ripple version, I would change to F2. And End to Playhead, Ripple again, to F3. Save. And then you can save it as a preset, and I'll call it DaVinci Resolve Test. That's essentially what this is. Then OK. And in the top right-hand corner, there's a preset for different ones and the ones you've saved. And if you ever want to change one that you've done, then you can save it as a new preset and then delete the old one. Anyway, going back to the footage, using what I use normally and what I've just shown you. So as I was saying, this is the playhead. So if you move this towards the start of a clip, and then click on the clip, because if you don't click on it, then it'll do stuff with the other ones, as I'll show now. So if I press F2, which is start to playhead, all the stuff before will just be deleted, and then the playhead will go to the start of where the clip was. But yeah, I only want to do that for one clip, so if I click on that and then press F2, and then end to playhead, as you might imagine, it's the same, but to the end. So if I click on this clip, press F3, then it ends to there, and then the F1, the split clip, essentially just lets you cut in between the clips so you can then delete them or you can move them around and stuff. And on the topic of deleting, there's essentially two ways that I do it. So if you click on a clip, you can press backspace, which just gets rid of it and it goes away, or Control Z to undo. And then what you can do instead is if you press the delete key, then it will do that ripple delete and it will bring things across. However, this seems to delete the clips around it. So yeah, I try to be careful with it. And in general, if you have different tracks, what I try to do is add them after, like audio. So if I go back to Media Pool, an audio track that I've added, here we go, July. And if I'll add that to audio track 3 and mute again, try and delete it, then it will delete the audio. And yeah, sometimes it's nice to just work with the footage first, then the audio. That's personally what works for me. And that'll be it for the timeline for now. So if we go up to the viewer, it will show you the footage. And in the top left, it chooses the percentage to fill the screen, viewer thing, and I just do fit. And then the proxy thing I was talking about earlier, preferred proxy is what I recommend. Even if you don't have any, it's fine. It will just work normally. And then left of that is different borders that allow you to show what it would be like in different things. I haven't really used it too much, but it's there for you to know. And I'll just leave it at that. I think that does most of the stuff. Moving on to the top right, the inspector allows you to change things with the video, like the zoom or the audio, effects, transitions, look at some of the file data, which is also available with metadata. And yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Moving back to the timeline, as I've shown with the effects, there's some video transitions, also there's titles and different things. And for example, I'll add a blur effect to this video, and that will be in the inspector, and you can change it from there. Anyway, I feel like that's enough for now. Hopefully it's not seemed too complicated. I'll just finish up a bit and show you some final touches that I recommend. So here we go. So when you're finished, if you want to export the project, if you have got a lot of footage that you don't want to have, but you have like a certain bit in between that you want to have, instead of going from the very start to the last clip or last audio, whatever it is, what you can do instead is go to the part that you want to export. So in this case, I'll go here, press I before, and then O at the end of where you want to stop it. And also you can press Alt and X to get rid of them at any point. But anyway, putting them back, what you can do now is you go to Quick Export, which if you don't know what you're doing, I recommend H.264 Master, or just to like YouTube or something like that if you want to do that. But anyway, export it and export it to a certain location. So in my instance here, it might take a while, but if I export it to, it should appear and it will just be that bit that you've got. So yeah, hopefully that's it. Showing you dragging the footage, you can drag it across, you can drag it up, you can do it over, so the video's over. There's lots of things, and yeah, it's quite a hard one to try and show enough, but then also not make it too complicated, and also actually just do a good job in general. But yeah, hopefully that's it. And one final tip before I go, if you go to the project manager at the bottom right, and then right click when you finish your project. So here, right click and go to Export Project Archive, and then save it to a folder, and also select Project Media if you've got any. Okay, wherever you've saved it, there'll now be a new project. So essentially the project saves itself and then all the stuff that you've used in it. So if you want to, say, use it on a different computer, you can just load up the project and then you should be able to use it. Okay, my voice is about gone. I hope that's worked out. Hopefully you can understand. Hopefully I've shown enough for you to be able to do a fair bit. And yeah, it might seem quite complicated, which in a way it is, but with time, hopefully it'll become more simple for you. And yeah, there's a lot more I haven't talked about. There's a lot more that I use, but this should hopefully be some of the basics. For most of the stuff that I use, should probably be fine. And yeah, hopefully you can make your videos, hopefully they'll go well. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, hope you have a good rest of your day, and farewell.